Welcome to Sambhashana's Newsroom Series presented by the PR Hub. Every week we invite media professionals to deep dive into subjects like journalism, newsroom, PR and many other related subjects. This week we have with us Romal Singh, who is an assistant editor at the Indulge. Romal, with 19 plus of experience, has worked with DNA, Bangalore Mirror, Times of India and many other publications. Romal is also a very well-known LGBTQIA plus activist, and he dabbles between theatre, dance, music. Let's welcome Romal to the Newsroom Series. Hi Romal, welcome to the Newsroom Series, and I'm so glad that you could make it to the series, and I'm happy to have this conversation with you.
I'm so happy to be here. I've heard so much about this series, so here's my chance.
Yeah. Today we're going to talk about your journey in journalism, your stories that have impacted you, and a little bit about, your insights on how PR has evolved or
Sure.
journalism involved, right?
No.
So can we start?
Let's start, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at the end, we're going to wrap up with a segment which is a little surprise element. I've just kept it that also.
Cool.
All right. To begin with, I just wanted to understand how journalism, and what made you take up journalism as a career.
I always say that it's the most funniest thing how I took up journalism. I actually am a commerce graduate, so I did my 12th in commerce and I had 97%. So I had a guaranteed seat in any college that I wanted to go to.
Yes.
I ended up applying to Trice College and got in actually for BCom.
Okay.
And I'd applied for BCom, and those days when you entered Trice College, as you walk down the path, there would be kiosks from different departments. And the media kiosk had this very, very pretty senior of mine who was sitting there, and she had this cherubic smile on her face.
Okay.
Her name was Saranya Francis, and I don't know what drew me to her. So then I just went to her and I said, okay, what do you do in media? Because I was so clueless. I mean, I knew journalists, but I didn't know what you were studying as a part of the course. And I won't be, in 20 minutes, she convinced me to do media, and I was 100% sure I wanted to do media.
Okay.
So I immediately went, changed my application, applied for media, and obviously with the 97% you get it, so I didn't have to fight too much. I was part of the first list, and that's how I started my career, and I never looked back or ever doubted. The ironic part is that she's no more in journalism, an English lecturer.
Okay.
But I continued to be in journalism.
You're basically from Bangalore?
So my mom is from Bangalore, but my dad is a Manipuri. And I've holidayed in Bangalore all throughout my life, but I grew up in Ooty. So,
Okay.
I'm an
That's
Nilgiris boy,
okay. But Ooty is now a little overpopulated.
So I'm not actually from Ooty, I'm from Kotigiri, which is 25 kilometers from
Okay,
Ooty. So
okay,
it's still
alright.
a small town, still not that bad.
All right.
It's nice. It was a
Kotigiri
great
is a
ride.
nice place.
Correct.
Is it towards Kunur, right?
No, so Ooty works like a triangle. So there's Ooty, there's Kunur, and there's Kotigiri.
Oh,
So
okay.
there are three towns
Like it's-
that
yeah.
connected between each
All right. That's nice. And you have worked across various publications, platforms, and then also you've been a little bit of comms and a little
Yes.
bit of content and all that. When you came back to journalism, what according to you, has evolved in the newsroom?
So I think it's been a long process. So now actually coming next year June will be 20 years of me in journalism.
Oh, God,
That's quite a long journey.
Yes.
In between every 4 years I take a break and I try and do something else. It just so happened that 4 years seems to be my itch. I'm in my 4th year now, so let's see if I continue to work in journalism without a break. I mean, I've reached that age where I think I should. But I've seen the newsroom evolve. I've seen news desks evolve. I've seen the way people look at news evolve over time. It's become a more inclusive space. It's become a more woke space. When I first came into the industry way back in 2007, actually I was interning from 2005. It was very tough for me to be open about my sexuality, be open about the fact that I was a man who was not very inclined towards writing about hardcore politics or crime. I mean, I did do crime and politics for a bit, but I was always inclined towards the arts. I was always someone who had a soft passion for the arts. Of course, I had to have an editor who pushed me to do it.
Yes.
And I'm very thankful to S.R. Ramakrishna, who now is in the Deccan Herald. He kind of pushed me towards, features and said, this is something that you should pursue. So I'm always thankful to him because my career as a features journalist is largely owed to him. Otherwise, I would have been just one of the crime reporters reporters in Bangalore, searching for the next big story. So I've seen the newsroom change. I've seen a lot more women being included in newsrooms. I've seen roles being changed. Like, for example, when I became a features journalist, which was around 2010, actually 9 itself. I was one of the few boys, the only boys actually across multiple cities. Like, there were hardly boys even in Bombay or Delhi working in features.
Yes.
It was a largely women-driven team because, features was considered soft and meant for women.
Yes.
And hard news was for men. But I think those roles have changed. Today, a lot of women are ruling news desks, are crime reporters.
Absolutely.
The best crime reporters in the country are often women. So many women are now ruling newspapers. They're editors-in-chiefs and things like that. So I think the biggest names we think about as journalists are also women, right? Like, who comes to your Barkhadat, Faye D'Souza?
Yes.
So the names that come to your head as journalists are also women. So I think we've seen a complete change in the way we perceive media.
Okay.
So media is changing for the good. There's of course a lot more paid media, but I'm sure we can get to that later in the conversation.
Do you think that with the disruption of AI, does this also impact the newsroom? What are your thoughts on that?
So, incidentally, I was actually talking about this earlier this morning. We have to accept the fact that AI is part of our life right now. It's always been. Honestly speaking, it's always been. Like, I was pointing out to a bunch of students that we're only talking about AI now in the era of ChatGPT, right? But AI has always been there. Your corrective text on your phone is AI, right? Your Word doc autocorrect is AI. Your Grammarly is AI. We've been using AI for so many things. Your picture manager changing pictures into better looking filters are AI. All of these things are AI.
Okay.
But for a long time, we were in control and we were using it. ChatGPT has taken that completely out of the way because it kind of says that you don't need a human. You can just write stuff. But I feel that as long as writers exist, we have to remember that a machine cannot replace us. So even now I'm like journey along with AI. So I would say, like, say for example, you write your brief skeleton of the story you want to write, or the content piece that you want to write, or the press release that you want to write. Let AI make it better.
Enhance
Let it embellish it. Let it enhance it. But let not AI do the writing in itself. That writing still has to be a human effort. It has to be done by a human being. And I think as long as we're able to do that, we will not let AI take over us. But can we use AI? Should we not use AI? There's no way to control it. Like, how will you stop a reporter of yours from using AI to embellish stories at home? You can't. What you can do is you can make the reporter to reread the copy once AI has done it. Because I'll give you an example. So recently, while I was testing out ChatGPT, I took one of my travel articles and I saw how well can ChatGPT enhance the writing. So it did do that. It made it very, very au courant with the way people write travel pieces. But what it did do was also leave out a lot of facts that were there in the original piece that were similar. So, like, for example, I said, in Ladakh, I like drinking chai at this particular place, but I also like samosas from the same shop, and I like the way they make Maggi. So the AI basically felt that that was redundant text. So it took out the Maggi and took out the samosas, which is a very important element. So you have to be careful for these small things where the AI has been taught by practice to make your writing better, but then it's following a machine idea of what is better, not a human thing where you're like, this is good, but I also need this extra fact. And that is why even if you're using an AI tool, please read it again, please edit it again, and then use it.
I know, customize it for what you want.
Can we live without AI? Absolutely not. No, it's the future. So let's journey along with AI rather than replacing ourselves.
Yes. And on that thing, you also travel across many cities, I know.
Yeah.
I just wanted, from a city perspective, from the culture, because you have written a lot of, culture and travel. Like, has being in different cities, does that impacted you, or did it even affect your, the newsroom or journalism way of writing?
Every city looks at journalism so differently. A news desk in Bombay is so different from a news desk in Chennai, which is so different from a news desk in Bangalore. Bangalore is very laid back. I mean, today I can say, because I've traveled for so long in different cities, that we have one of the most healthiest journalist circles in Bangalore. Our newsrooms are pretty woke, pretty open, pretty accepting. But in terms of great ideas, Bombay rules the rules. Like, the kind of ideas that come out of Bombay newsrooms are always amazing. It's also because journalists are much younger there. People often say that in Chennai and in Bangalore, people will continue to sit in their seat till the day they die, right? An editor will stay an editor till he pops off in that chair, or a woman would do the same.
Okay.
Bombay is not like that. Bombay people are always switching. So
Always.
even if you have the editor-in-chief of Times of India in Bombay, you won't sit there for more than 5-6 years.
Okay.
You'll find something better to do. Whereas in Bangalore, you have people, because the city is like that. It's a lazy city. So once people find a job that they really like, they just get stuck there. What that happens, therefore, is then you're blocking new talent from coming in. So let's say now I eventually become the editor of a newspaper at some point. Say I do become, and then I just sit there for the next 20 years. So where is new thought going to come in? Where is innovation going to come in? So in that way, Bangalore does have a problem. But Chennai and Bombay are pretty much slightly better.
They keep evolving. All right.
Chennai has very little competition. That's the problem. So Chennai, while the Tamil vernacular journalism is crazy, huge number of players, English is very small. It's just your Hindu, it's your Times of India, and now it's your DT Next. That's about it. I think even Deccan Chronicle is shut, right? I'm not sure. So,
but they've started online as well.
Yeah.
They've come back.
But that's still 4. I'm talking about a time when I got into journalism and Bangalore had 7 English papers, right?
Yes.
And now what, we're down to 4 again here also?
Yeah, I think
3, 4.
Predom.
So for me, that's a problem because I think journalism thrives when there is no monopoly. Like there has to be multiple perspectives on the same piece of news for a reader to be able to figure out what the actual news is.
Yes.
Because we all have our hidden agendas, we all have our hidden biases. So for me, that feels bad. I think Bombay is still slightly more healthier. They have a few more papers. They've got, free Indian free press. So they've got, I don't know what the paper is called, but there are many papers.
Yeah.
I'd like that to come back to the south.
Nice. We are also hoping that we saw the number of pages also being reduced, right? And now slowly they're coming back, right? Yeah. And 14 plus years is a long thing. Some of the challenges would you like to share with us? I'm like, yo.
I think the challenge in India has always been on how far do you push how much advertisers have a say in the news, because many newsrooms today are driven by business. You're not allowed to talk about big businesses, you're not allowed to talk, and that's a huge part of their PR mandate, that if we're going to give you this much advertorial revenue or advertisement revenue, then you can't talk about this, you have to take a positive. So they're not buying stories, but they are kind of pushing the news in a certain direction. And I feel that's very bad to do, because I'd like to assume that the way the Tatas dealt with the media was so much better, where they supported, but they did not necessarily push the story in a particular direction.
Yes.
Of course, there were times where they also tried to hide stories whenever it was problematic, but largely they were not a business house that was trying to buy over media and look after it. But across papers today, you have big business houses trying to get that pound of flesh to try and control newspapers. So that's one problematic thing that I found very hard to deal with, because many times you're silenced and you're said, marketing will not be okay with this, which should not be ever said to a journalist. The other thing is, I feel there is a lack of curiosity in a lot of young journalists. Like I think, and maybe I'm biased, I don't know, but I feel like my generation, millennials, and even the generation right after us, the generation before us, we were people who were very curious about the world around us. We were always reading, always gaining knowledge. I feel the new generation does not have that itch. And
sorry to interrupt you, one of the guests who had come in my last saying that the core essence of being a journalist is you have to be curious.
Absolutely.
I'm like, and I think partly it's suitable for VPR people as well, right?
You have to be curious.
Yes.
Today I'm meeting young interns who tell me, "Sir, could you tell me a part of journalism which is not dangerous?" And you are entering an industry that is full of danger and saying, you don't. So what do you want to do? Sit at a desk and type away?
Yes.
I remember interviewing someone in Chennai 2-3 years ago when I was with Provoke, the previous magazine I was working with. And this girl came into the office and she said, I said, what do you want to do with us? Do you want to write? Do you want to do photography? What do you want to do? So she said, I'd like to upload stuff. I said, okay, you want to upload stuff. So I said, will you be writing that? She said, no. So I said, you're going to upload other people's stories.
Okay.
She's like, yes. And she was very confident. And then I said, why don't you, I can do that via a robot. AI can do that for me. Why would you be needed? No, there'll be a human element.
Do you think then because of this, I'm not saying the larger education system or the way it could be.
I don't know. I feel like COVID screwed up a whole generation. Learning from behind a screen and not interacting in, a classroom, in a school, has kind of I don't want to say dumbed down, but has kind of taken out the life out of a lot of students.
Okay.
So today, a lot of people who are entering newsrooms and other companies are people who lack that passion for knowledge. That, like for example, when we were growing up, we took a lot of joy in knowing all the capitals in India, all the states in India. We know all the states in the US and the capitals in the US, even though we never lived there. Today, that kind of knowledge is considered irrelevant. Like young kids are, but why? Like, why would I need to know that? It's of no relevance to me. So knowledge seems to be now completely based on what you need. Knowing more than what you need has somehow become like a problem, which was never the case with us. We were always proud of people who knew many things and was aware of many things. But younger generations today are all like, if that knowledge is of no application to me, why the hell should I know it?
Thanks to the internet, when we never had, when I...
So I feel like with the more knowledge available, the interest in knowledge has decreased.
readily available.
I don't know. But that's very problematic for me. And I'm very worried about the new generations because, like, for example, I know young journalists who I can, if I was, like, say I was a PR and I was dealing with a journalist who's 21 years old, I can create a huge problem by just saying random things and they will not even check it. I can be like the other day, a PR person called me, and again, a 21-year-old from a Bombay agency, and called me and told me that I would like you to go and check out Lavon. It's a brand new bakery in Bangalore.
Okay.
And I was just like, I've been in Bangalore forever. It's not brand new in any way.
Yeah.
They have multiple branches already.
Exactly.
So what are you saying? And then she's like, oh, but that's what the PR told me. So you can...
I understand.
Yeah,
I'm
you
like,
can literally feed in any information. It's not going to be vetted. It's not going to be verified. And people will take your information for what it is.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a good thing or it's a bad thing.
It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like you do your
That's my
research.
worry.
Yeah. I'm like, right. Also, some of the interesting stories, I'm curious to know, some of very close to you, or some stories which you felt are very challenging, but we did it. Any kind of stories that you would want to share? Yeah?
Personal milestones have been not just in journalism but also when I was a social activist. One of the stories that really was a long process. This was when we were fighting for the removal of 377 or the reading down of 377.
Yes.
A whole bunch of us, allies and queer journalists, kind of created not a very formal network but an informal network across the country, and we tried pushing more of our stories into the newsroom, into our papers, and thankfully we had editors, especially English newspaper editors, who supported us, and how we were able to change the way the educated Indian perceived the community from you are pedophiles and completely problematic people to now saying, hey, you have a right to live and what you do in your bedroom is none of my business. So to see that change in the last 10 years, and I know that I've very much been part of that change, is something that I take a lot of pride in. The very fact that today any English newsroom in India, everyone knows what a transgender person is, what a gay person is, what a lesbian person is, and is able to deal with these stories with nuance and a sort of a humanity when they are dealing with
There's no that stigma now, right?
And that stigma, when I joined the industry, was very much there.
Very much. That's what I wanted to say. You have eventually we'll speak about that as well. But I just thought you have seen that and you've come here,
Absolutely.
right?
I've been part of that movement. So that's the thing. So it was a very undercurrent movement. It's not like we had leaders. It's not like we had LGBTQ journalist leaders. But everyone played their role. I remember multiple times when other people in other papers, like even in Delhi and all, when they were doing stories and they didn't know whether it was the right thing to say or the right way to say it, they'd just pick up the phone and call and be like, hey, I'm reading out this para to you, tell me if it's okay. And I liked that. I liked that there was a conscious decision by straight journalists.
Like, for example, I also sent you something and I said, if you're comfortable only then because I have worked with, when in my past organization, we brought the community to paint a school.
Lovely.
It was such a, make things a little inclusive, right? And also organizations are also moving towards that. I'm like somewhere, but a lot needs to be done, but somewhere it's going in the right direction.
I still remember when DNA launched in Bangalore and the Pride was going on, how DNA was just like, take the whole page. So I had a whole page coverage on
Yes.
just Pride, which I could not have ever imagined.
Yeah.
So I've seen the support I've received from the journalism community, from the media community at large, from PRs. I've had PR colleagues who have worked with me just as friends.
Yes.
And they'll be like, hey, Pride March is happening. Can we come and join? I'm like, please.
Yeah.
So I remember 2016.
It's like a
Pride.
festival,
Yeah,
no? It's
so-
the colors and
So 2016 Pride, I had 3 or 4 PR agencies with their whole offices coming, and I just loved it. I was like, this is what I want. This is the change that I'm looking for. That's been one. Another one that I thought was a big milestone for me was when I was working with CRI, Child Rights Anew, and I was the media liaison for Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Goa. And that was the year the BJP government came into power, and they had made Swachh Bharat the national campaign.
Yes.
And we were working particularly in Gujarat, and we were able to convince the Gujarat government, which is the home state of Modi, to not do Swachh Bharat, but actually focus on tribal education.
Okay.
And that became the yearly focus. Because we were able to bring out numbers and show them that close to 90% of tribal children don't have proper access to education. And the then chief minister, she absolutely listened to us and she said, yeah, what is Swachh Bharat when my kids don't have education?
Yeah.
And to change a whole state's focus and a budget focus when the whole country was focusing on one thing, I thought was a huge achievement for me. So
Yes.
that's something that I'm very proud of.
Okay. In somewhere you've mentioned that every 4 years you have.
I think it's an itch.
like-
Yeah.
yeah.
I actually figured it out recently.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, is it an itch? Is it 4 years? I don't know.
No, but then consciously a little bit, I wanted to ask you because when we spoke to Nolan also, he did, he went after journalism, he went and then he came back to journalism. With you, you did something and you came back.
I've done that 3 times now, by the way. And I think I'll keep doing it.
Yeah. So, but then with your handling content and internal comms, what's your experience been like? Or why, like, was it conscious that you take up those roles?
So I always knew communication would come naturally to me. So I've done internal comms. I've also done corp-com. I've done
Okay.
both. So with Fresh Menu, I did content and corp-com.
Yes.
Whereas with Arvind Limited, I did internal com. And both were, honestly speaking, internal com is my favorite because
Okay.
there's so much you can develop.
Yes.
With Arvind, I did the project for 6 months with them, and it was building their internal platform. People could interact, and it was beautiful because we had the chairman completely supporting us, and you realize these smaller things. Like for example, Arvind is a huge company. They've got
Exactly.
33 internal brands, God knows how many other brands, and the problem put forward to us was nobody identifies with the brand. Everyone identifies as Calvin Klein or whichever FC UK or whatever brand they're working with.
Yes,
They don't
yes.
identify with Arvind, which is the parent organization.
Yes.
How do we do that? So then we built this whole thing called One Arvind. It was something across Arvind brands where everywhere you looked, you were reminded that you are essentially Arvind.
Okay.
So like even in the morning when you came in, your laptop opened up to an Arvind branding.
Okay.
And then you had to log in via the Arvind website. So then you're constantly reiterated that, hey, you're part of an Arvind family.
Yes.
These other brands are joint ventures with us. So that was a very exciting period.
Yes.
And I saw internal communications and how powerful it can be as a tool. So I am always
That's a brand story rewritten again and again.
correct.
Right?
So I would
Yeah.
love to do a project like that over and again because it just had so many players and be able to bring this together. Corpcom was something that again, I mean, it's just marketing in a different way. So it was very normal for me. Content was something that we do as journalists actually because from the time I came into journalism, it's not just been reportage. It's also been handle social media, handle online, handle this. So we're also content creators.
Okay.
It's just that we're first and foremost journalists. But I think all journalists who at least come from a features background, we're also content creators. And so
Right.
we're creating content all the time. We also have to be careful about our own social media.
Yes.
So like I take a lot of diligence with my social media, the content that I put up and stuff like that. It has to live up to a
Now
certain
we are living in that kind of a generation
Yeah.
where we tend to follow you and
Yeah.
what kind of news that you're
Yeah.
putting it out, right?
So, but I think I was clued into this way before it became trendy. So, way before social media was a thing,
Yes.
I was already curating my content because I knew people were watching. So, at a time when Facebook Facebook was still a friend's platform, I was using it to disseminate information. And I was very particular about how my posts looked, how it was, the aesthetics of it and all of that. So I've kind of just smoothened into that journey, because it's just something that's been very normal. And I still think that tomorrow I could walk into any organization and be a perfect fit within their content team or their corporate communication team, because it's a bunch of talents that I think just has come along with my journey. So
another thing is, somewhere you've just mentioned about your coming out with your identity.
Yes,
What was your kind of a struggle like? And then you started this huge, you're an activist, you're a movement, like a little bit of that as well.
So my journey was, I think I figured out I was queer or gay when I was probably like 13 or 14, but I never felt the need for a community, because the first people I fell in love with were my best friends, the ones I got into relationships with, people within my own circle. So I was very self-contained. When I joined Trice College for my journalism, it was in Trice College for the first time that I realized, hey, there's a community out there. And it was actually a breakup that led me to look for people who I was not romantically involved with. Because till then I was just happy with my boyfriend. I didn't really need anyone else, right? And then in college, I realized that it was important to stand up and openly say who you were. And Trice College at that time was welcoming enough to let me be who I was. I was never judged about my sexuality. I was judged about my appearance, because I used to wear my hair long and all of that. So I was judged for all of that, like anybody else in any Catholic institution. It's absolutely normal. I dealt with it in my own way. My parents got involved when they had to. It wasn't always great. It was ups and downs. Anyway, I graduated from college, and then I remember I was in Midday. And Midday also, I covered the community events. I would go cover what was happening. And then 2008, I still remember, there was a Pride that was happening. And I was sent to cover the Pride with a friend of mine who was a photographer. And this was the first Pride, 2008, July.
Okay.
And the Pride is happening, and a lot of the people who are now big people like Akai Padmashali and all of them were just young kids at that point of time.
Okay.
And they're all walking down the Pride, and we were at National College grounds. And then the whole thing happened.
Arvani project also, you wrote something about
I
that?
wrote about them,
Yes,
but I'm not
okay.
a part of them. And then we were walking down, and then at one point of time, all of us media people, we lined up at Town Hall, and we were interviewing First Pride, what does it mean, all of that. And at that point of time, my photographer, who was a very close friend of mine at that point of time, he's shooting me, asking all of this, and he said, "Sir, it feels weird, but I think you should be there, not here."
Oh, okay.
And that hit me so badly, because it was true. What was I doing here as a journalist? That's the community that needed my help at that point of time. And here I was asking them tough questions, which they didn't need to answer at that point. Because remember, that time we were illegal and all of that. So for them to even appear on my camera was a problem. They were so brave, and they were willing to do this for the sake of the larger goods.
You came out with your identity, Romal, and then I'm sure you would have faced some challenges. A little bit of that, if I would want you to share with us.
So I came out when I was around 13 or 14. I mean, I came out to myself. But, and then I think it never really cropped up as an issue till I reached Trice College.
That's a good thing, no?
Yeah. Also, I didn't talk about it to many people.
Okay.
So when I dated many people who were my friends, and then my first boyfriend was also a very close friend of mine. So it wasn't really a big problem. And whenever I did bring it up with, parents or relatives, it was never made into a big issue. It was very brushed off and said, it's a phase, you're rebelling. Like, it was never looked at as a problem.
Yes.
But then I came to Trice College in 2004. And for the first time, I was dealing with people who were accepting of me and gave me a larger world perspective of the fact that there's a community and there are people who need help and all of those kind of things. I was still very much isolated. I was still stuck to just my own relationship, never really bothered about anything. Then I remember joining journalism. By then I was a little bit more outer, and I told a lot of people, and a lot of people were accepting. Of course, there were always homophobes in my life who cut me off because I was a homosexual person, which is their problem, not my problem. I say good riddance. I'm very happy I lost them. But then I joined Trice College, and then I got into journalism. So I remember the first time we had gone to cover the Pride, and I was with a photographer who's a very good friend, and so we were walking along with all of the people at the Pride, and then we finished the Pride and we come to Town Hall, and this was the first Pride, so people like Akash Padmashali and all, they were just growing up at that time. I mean, I still remember her from that Pride. And then my friend, I'm interviewing people from the community, and then my friend looks at me and he says, So I think you need to be on that side. And it really hit me. It hit me very badly. And I remember being choked for emotion for a bit, but then I had to continue the interview, so I did it. And then the whole night, I was just sitting and thinking, that's so true. What am I doing on this side? I have power. I have the ability of writing. I have the ability to make change. What am I doing with all these abilities? I'm sitting and working on, writing stories on rape and crime and all, but what am I doing for my community?
Community, yes.
So then the next day, I searched out the group that had organized the Pride. And I walked into that organization and I said, I'm a journalist. I work with so-and-so organization. I write for them. What can I do for you? And that was the beginning of me as an activist.
Did that drive you to start the entire community?
Yeah, no, the community
arts-
existed.
Okay.
And then over a few years, then I realized that people were still looking at us as very different. Like, people come and be like, oh, so when you date someone, do you feel the same way? And I used to be shocked. I was like, what do you mean by that?
Okay.
In your relationship, who is the man? Who is the woman? These kind of questions. Who is the wife? Who is the husband? And I realized there was so much misinformation outside there. And I realized the best way to bridge that gap was through arts. Because see, arts, what it does is when you're looking at a performance, their gender doesn't matter. Their identity doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
It is the message that they're giving. And so we did a whole bunch of performances. I remember the first event I did with Kwame, which was a launch event, with two friends of mine who were part of Kwame, then Masum Parmar and Vinay Natarajan. We did this event called Festival of Free Love, which was basically calling queer people to come and perform whatever they felt like about their love stories. And it was at Humming Tree in Indiranagar. And I'm not even kidding.
Oh, that's not there now.
Yeah, anymore, correct.
Okay.
This was one of their first events. And I remember some 2,000 people came in over the night and everyone was so moved by it. And everyone was just like, I never related with a queer person till now and realized you're going through the same stuff that I'm going through.
Yes.
And that was the point of queer arts movement in India.
Okay.
To bridge that gap and say, listen, you might be straight, I might be gay, you might be bisexual, but our lived experiences are the same. We're all going through heartbreak, we're all going through pain, we're all going through happiness, and we're all sharing this planet together. So let's use art to bridge that gap. And so we did events quite a few years. We went to Bombay, went to Hyderabad, went to Chennai, all over.
It's an all India movement right now.
Right now it's on a break because I don't have the time to do anything.
Okay.
Now, while I was working with Kwame also, we realized that, a lot of people put a lot of money into the community. Like we were talking about, all these organizations and people who support trans people and all of that. So a lot of money comes into the organization. Into the community, but very little was going out. And so a bunch of friends, we got together and we said, hey, we'd like to support some events also, and we'd like to support some causes too. And one of the first things that we wanted to support was female hygiene, because there's so little information about it. So we found a startup company that basically needed, your first funding, your starting fund. And they were doing affordable pads for girls across India. And we said, this is a great thing. So we did a fundraising party for them. And in the first event itself, we got close to 3 to 4 lakhs in one night. And so we realized, hey, this is a good thing to do. And
Yes.
that's how the whole my funding thing started.
When you do the funding, just a little curious, where do you distribute these?
So we usually do a fund only when we have someone to fund.
Okay.
So it's not randomly we fund. So we find someone who needs the money. We ask them, what is your possible amount that you think you want right now to start off whatever project? Then we try and cater the event to that. We curate the event to try and make that much money.
Okay. A little, away from, the movement and stuff. You have worked a lot in both some amount of comms, PR and journalism. I just want to know, with all these years of experience, I would want you to share with us, for our PR community, how can we enhance our writing skills, minus the AI? Is there some kind of tips that you could give us?
I think the basic thing is be honest about your writing. Don't try. I think a lot of people, and this is the problem with Indian education, we always tell people, read a lot of books, but don't tell them what books to read. You could be reading the most trashiest books. You could be reading Mills and Bones. Where will you learn your writing style? So I think beyond and above reading books, you have to specify and tell people what kind of books you want them to read. This is a professional space.
Yes.
I'm not asking you to write love letters. So sitting and reading Jane Austen will not help you. It will help you build your vocabulary.
Yes.
But beyond that, it's not going to help you. You need to be reading non-fiction. You need to be reading people who are chronicling history. You need to be reading at people who value the language and have written with that kind of a passion. So I'm not going to stop you reading a Marquez. I'm not going to stop you reading someone who's a good writer. But reading everything and everyone is not really going to make your language better. Another thing is continuously write. Continuously read. Never be intimidated by the fact that you don't know something. Always
Start somewhere.
Yeah, start somewhere. And like even there are days when I don't know words. I work with the language on a daily basis. I edit newspapers. And English is such a wide language. It keeps borrowing from so many languages. There are days I have come across words that I did not know the meaning of. And I had to open a dictionary and figure it out. But, I approached that not with shame, but with curiosity and extreme excitement.
Learning is a continuous
And
process.
so I'm just like, wow, I don't know this word. What does it mean? Then I'll go into where does the origin come from?
Yeah.
Which language does it come from?
Yes.
So I'm always very, very excited. And I think just doing that is enough. Like if you want to be a good writer, don't be too carried away by the people you read. Good writing does not mean emulating. Good writing means creating your own style. And so I always encourage people to always focus on a style that is uniquely you. And it will only happen by practice. So never stop writing. Even in the smallest press release where you can use AI to generate it,
Yeah.
don't do that. You write the press release, clean it up using AI. No problem.
Exactly.
So don't give up on this. I am a good writer today because I'm writing every day. I'm honing my skills every single day.
Absolutely.
I'm honing my skills every single day while I edit someone else's copy. So there's no, like I'm constantly working with word, right? And I think if you constantly work with words and vocabulary and language, you'll be a good writer.
That's a good takeaway. And to wrap up this, the last thing that I would want to ask you is, what are some of the few do's and don'ts for our community?
For the PR community.
Yes.
I actually had this conversation with Pepper PR recently.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is like a regurgitation of the same thing.
Okay.
I always
Some key things that
Yeah,
that
I think there are 5 big points which will make all your interactions with journalists amazing. And they will also respect you and you will also respect them. And I'm coming just from that perspective because I've not really done PR ever. I've been a Copcom person. But
Yes,
not,
yes.
Not
Yeah,
really on
yeah.
PR side. So the first thing is before you call a journalist, find out everything you can about the journalist. Like don't enter into a call without knowing what field they write about, which publication they write about. Get the most relevant new information that you could get. Figure out what their gender is. Don't misgender people. You will immediately lose them in that first second. Like there are many people who call me and be like, am I talking to Romal ma'am? Yeah, and I'll just be like, why would I even indulge you? Like, I'll cut the call immediately. Like, if you can't even figure out what my gender is, which is available everywhere, why do I give you any, time to listen to your conversation? Second thing is, find out what time they're working at. Journalists do not work 9 to 5.
Yes.
See, my timing is, I work between 3 and late in the night. If you're going to call me every day at 9 o'clock, you're actually intruding my sleep.
If you, sorry to cut you off there. We've been in PR for a longer time. When journalists kind of put it on LinkedIn and all, for me, I'm surprised, because on the job we've learnt it. You people walk into the office only post lunch.
Yeah.
That's the time we kind of call you. And like, for example, in our conversation also, I asked you what is the good time.
Yeah, and I appreciate that.
I'm quite surprised that why is that I don't know, where is that we've lost something?
I think a lot of new PRs are not being taught that. So I don't know whether to blame the seniors, the organization, or the PR.
Which is like, I think we will, the reason why, even it's a repetitive that I'm asking you so that we put it out there and we as a community become a little more stronger, a little more, that way disciplined and function better.
Like I always tell peers, I'm like, would you be okay if I called you during my working hours, which is 1 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
Would you be okay me calling you at that time? No, right?
Right.
You expect me to respect your sleeping time. Why don't you respect mine? And it's not like we don't make it clear. We often say, please don't call us before this time, but they will continuously call. I get people calling me at 6:30 in the morning, 7:30 in the morning.
Are you serious?
Regular PRs. They are calling me 6:30, 7:30.
Okay.
And of course, very sweetly, so can I have 2 minutes of your time? I'm like, I was just sleeping. Wake me up. Like now I won't get sleep for the rest of the day.
Yes.
So be a little bit more, have a heart. Like that's what I say. Yeah.
If you are anything else that you
Then
would want
third
to...
point, which
Yes.
is always, whenever you're reaching a journalist, be careful about the language that you're using. A lot of people who are journalists are good at language. So they're going to get tone, they're going to get notes. So something that irks me a lot is that people send us messages saying, interview opportunity. And I'm like, who is the opportunity for, you or me?
Okay.
I'm never going to be pulled up by my boss for not writing your story. You are going to get pulled up. So who is it an opportunity for? You. So when you're sending it to me, it has to be an interview pitch. The language that you're sending to us has to be about a pitch, saying that, hey, this is my client, this is the story available. Not like, my client is available, would you like to talk to them? Oh, I'm sorry,
it's
I
not
don't.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so be very clear about the way you're presenting this. And a lot of PRs believe like if they build up their client, we will also be like, oh wow, such a opportunity. That will work for a smaller news organization that is dying for stories. An established news organization is just going to be like, sorry, I don't have the time for it, right? There are times I have said no to interviews with Amitabh Bachchan, which is like the biggest thing in my, because I'm just saying I don't have the time to do it. And you want me to do it at your timing. I can't do it at your timing. So no story is that big that I'm going to be like, oh my God, I want it, I can't refuse it. So when you're pitching, please pitch it as a pitch. Don't come to us with an attitude and say opportunity, because nobody's going to take it lightly. Right?
Got it.
Immediately irk the person.
Okay.
Then the last one is always realize that you are equally as stressed as we are. I know PR is a very stressed out job. So is journalism. It's not like journalism is an easy job. We are constantly stressed. So if you are pissed off, we are also pissed off. So if you talk to us in the correct way, we will respond in the correct way. Of course, there are going to be exceptions. There are going to be journalists who are absolutely mean. And then you handle them differently, or tell a senior in the organization, I can't handle this person. Can you handle this person? But don't take that anger out on us throughout the day, because we are in an equally stressful situation, as are you. So let patience be the way that we talk with each other, because we have to work with each other. Right. The future of media is journalists and PR working with each other, right?
Together.
And that's a reality we have to accept.
Yes.
You have to understand we come from a legacy of where journalists are told to look down at PRs, yeah? And PRs are told, oh, be scared of journalists. That era is gone. There's no need for fear. There's no need of looking down, looking up. We're all equal and we all need to work together. But for that, we need to respect each other. So if you can only respect a journalist if you really respect them. Like I'll tell you, for example. So whenever I take these breaks, there are a bunch of PRs who will continue to be in touch with me even when I'm not a journalist, and will continue to meet me or continue to hang out with me or call randomly like, how are you? How's your mom? You know, they're genuinely interested in your life, right?
Yes.
And then there are PRs who are so matlabi. The day I'm not going to tell them what my plan is, right? So when I quit journalism, they'll be like, oh my God, he's never going to come back. Now I can show him my true color. So then no response to calls, leave your messages on scene. Please realize that I will come back to the profession and then it's going to be a terrible place for you. So be smarter. Realize that as a PR, it's a lifelong thing. Something that you said, once a PR, always a PR.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so remember
I'm like,
that.
yeah.
Right? Once a journalist, always a journalist.
Yes. I have learned it thankfully to my bosses that I worked with, you know.
If you do that, then people will really respect you. They will
Yes.
be like, this is someone I want as a person in my life.
Yes,
Not
yes.
as a professional thing. And believe me, if a PR is able to establish a personal connection with a journalist, it is a relationship for life.
Yes.
So there are places where we will get you out of terrible situations.
Yes,
We will
yes.
give you the contacts you need. You will give us the stories that we need. So
Yes.
it is a very, very mutual relationship that
Exactly.
can be nurtured and made better. My last point is always figure out for print journalists, when are we going into print?
Yes.
And if we are working on our edition on, say, a Tuesday or a Wednesday, don't call on that day.
Yes.
It's not that tough. Most papers will either go to print on a Monday or a Wednesday or a Friday, right? If it's a daily paper, they'll go on a certain time during the day. At that time, don't call them because
Yes.
they will be doing 100 other things.
It's better to ask,
Yeah.
right? And then figure out and then... Yeah.
If it is too tough for you, I literally tell PRs, make a chart and put it on your desktop or your workplace. Romal available between this time, this person available between this time.
Point
Because
noted.
if you do that, I immediately know you value my presence in your life and you value my
Yes,
time.
yes,
So
yes.
there are journalists who have figured it out like a piece of cake. Like I know for a fact that if there is a pitch, it's going to come at 3 o'clock on a Monday evening, because they know 3 o'clock on a Monday evening, I can think about it.
Yes, yes.
And believe me, when you pitch it to me at 3 o'clock on a Monday evening because I have nothing else to do, your story will go.
Yes. What time you pitch also.
Because I have the bandwidth to deal with your story.
Yes, yes.
But if you're going to pitch it to me on Wednesday at 9 o'clock when my page is going to print, I'm not going to remember it even 5 minutes after that. So play it smart, figure it out. All journalists will tell you what's a good time to call them. Call them during that point of time. So as I said, treat them as a human being. They will treat you as a human being.
Yes.
Let's all work together.
Thank you so much. It's been absolute pleasure to listening to your stories, your experiences, and great insights for us to take back and then work in a better way. And we move on to the next session, Roman.
Absolutely, looking forward. Okay, let's give it a shot. Wow.
Okay, your biggest fear?
To be irrelevant. I think my biggest fear is to be irrelevant. Yeah.
Okay, the next one. Okay. Share a dream of yours.
My dream is to one day wake up and not want anything.
That's nice. Interesting. I think.
Yeah.
Share. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, wow. Good.
The best piece of advice you received?
Do not ever take advice from people who seem like they don't know what they're talking about. I've learned this the hard way. Like, there are people who will act like they know so much about everything under the planet Earth. Be a little bit smart and take advice from people you know what they're talking about. And then,
right.
Don't take any random advice. Yeah.
The second last one. A little this side. Your favorite celebrity? I put you on a spot now.
Yeah, it's actually, so I'm a very typical Leo. I don't really have people that I think are celebrities, and I'm not starstruck, which is why I'm a very good journalist. Like, you can put me in front of my favorite actor and they will never know because I'll be super professional. So it doesn't even show on my face.
Okay.
But one celebrity who I'm in awe of or inspired by, or what?
It could your favorite. It
My
could
favorite
be
celebrity.
Yes.
I'm going to say someone who passed away because there's no chance of me meeting this person. But there is a writer called J.R.R. Tolkien who lived in the UK, I think a century ago or so. And he created a whole world and populated the world with all kinds of creatures and human beings and all kinds of things and built this whole world which is called Middle Earth. And just with the large scale that he built and the way he was able to make us all imagine. So till the Lord of the Rings movie came out, none of us could really imagine Middle Earth. We all had our own imaginations.
Okay.
But to think that this one human being processed this whole world, it made me realize that maybe we also created the idea of God. Because if there's a human being who could dream up so much, then maybe man also dreamed of God. So I don't know. Yeah, but I would have loved to meet J.R.R.
Okay. The last one.
Yes. In the center. Come on.
Oh, you would ask. If you could be anywhere in the world, where could that be?
Right now, I want to be in my hometown of Kotagiri where I grew up because I am most connected with that space and I think it has the most beautiful people in terms of heart, soul, mind. I think hill people across the world, people who live in the hills are more gentle and nicer. And I think a lot of who I am today, like who I am as Romal, a lot of people give credit to my parents, give credit to schools. I think it's all nonsense. I feel like the credit goes to where I grew up, which was Kotagiri.
I also connect to that because hills kind of teach you that, front of you, I'm like front of the hills, you are nothing.
Absolutely.
Right?
It shows you your relevance on planet Earth. You're small, you're irrelevant. And it also teaches you to be humble.
That's an important
thing.
So
many of my life lessons I learned because I grew up among hill tribes.
Yes.
Who don't think twice about sharing. Like, there are times where you'd be on a road and you're thirsty and that person has only that much water in a bottle.
On that note, let me put this on the camera.
Sure.
As soon as Xavier came and you had the sweets and you said, take it. I was looking. I'm like, he's supposed to be the journalist. We have not even there. And I've just said, like, he must be generous. And I'm very, very generous. But then you came and you just gave. And like, gifts to me.
Something I learned from where I grew up.
Yeah. In fact, side Xavier saying that please don't, and he was like, so I know where that comes from. Yeah.
So I give it all credit to growing up among hill tribes and people who are just so nice as people. So, I grew up believing the world was a nice place.
Yes.
And then I came to the plains and to the cities and realized it's not really true. But still, for me, when you
It's
ask
people
me,
we are the one who make it good or bad, right? It's what we contribute to it, right?
I don't even have this doubt. At any point of time in life, if anyone asks me, where do you want to be right now? I'll say, back in.
Amazing, amazing. Romal, thank you once again for your valuable time that you spent here and give
This is such a lovely opportunity, and I'm so happy you started it. And I want to see this series go really huge. And
Thank you so much. The only reason why, as I was telling you to, with this whatever little that I've learned, I want to give it back because I took a lot from this profession. PR has always been, apart from being my bread and butter, I have learned, a lot, met a lot of people, and I'm like, put the passion on my shoulders, sleeves, or whatever it is, that I would want to give it back,
this is a
so that
way to give back. So
Thank you. Right.
thanks, Silva.
Thank you.